By OsazuwaAkonedo, our reporter. Africa Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEEJ has expressed readiness to advance Paris Climate Agreement as part of activities to pursue Wiwa's struggle for environmental justice. The acting executive director, ANEEJ, Leo Atapo, made this known in his welcome address at a meeting that took place at Visa Carena Hotel, Port Harcourt, Rivers State, held to reflect on Wiwa's struggle for environmental justice in the Niger Delta. According to ANEEJ, besides reflecting on Wiwa's struggle for environmental justice in the Niger Delta, the meeting was also held to discuss emerging issues and their implications for the environment in the Niger Delta region. The ANEEJ boss in his words said, "We are interested in advancing the implementation of Paris Climate Agreement by encouraging oil companies and their investors to adopt the call for carbon emission reduction targeting 1.5 degrees Celsius and below, and fossil fuel phase out with a just energy transition projection to protect the natural environment from pollution and over-exploitation." Despite the urgent need for the world to quickly move away from fossil fuel or at least drastically reduce carbon emission, to meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius target set in Paris, and save the planet from destruction, oil and gas companies have failed to provide realistic plans that will ensure global comfort. Major oil companies have abandoned initial climate commitments for short-term profit because of increased global demand for crude oil. In 2023, the Church of England Pensions Board, a major investor in Shell and other oil companies, announced that it is withdrawing its fund from Shell and other companies because such companies have abandoned its climate commitments for short-term profits. More investors like the Dutch Healthcare Pension Fund, PFZW, have also dumped some oil companies for lack of credible climate strategy. In the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, oil wells are constantly being developed. The environment is polluted, including land, air and water. The people's livelihood has been badly affected. At the meeting, ANEEJ produced an insightful documentary to mark Wiwa's struggle and trigger a reflection on the state of Niger Delta and the quest for climate justice. The documentary was viewed by participants during the meeting, and robust, penetrating comments were made on the state of the region, especially as Shell recently announced its divestment plan from onshore operations in the region and the sale of its onshore facilities. The meeting, which was attended by 47 community leaders, civil society organizations and journalists, discussed the need to commence the campaign for the environmental assessment of every aspect of the Niger Delta, the outcome of the just concluded COP20, at which was held in Dubai in December 2023, the opportunities the event has created to advance the Niger Delta struggle, agreed on advocacy entry points and actions to be taken to support the quest for environmental justice in the Niger Delta, amongst others. The event was part of the implementation of Advocacy for Fossil Fuel Phase Out in Nigeria project supported by African Climate Foundation, ACF. The Africa Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEEJ, which organized the meeting, is currently working with some donors to further the work on climate change and the environment, according to ANEEJ official. Meanwhile, on February 8, 2024, ANEEJ, in collaboration with the Anti-Corruption Cluster of Strengthening Civic Advocacy and Local Engagement, SCALE, in Nigeria, organized a learning event on the effects of corrupt practices on persons with disabilities in Nigeria, to conclude the two-day cluster coaching session. At ANEEJ Secretariat, Benin City, the learning event had participants drawn from JONAPWD, cluster members, religious bodies, artisans, civil servants, teachers, amongst others. The event featured a presentation by an Ojubu, chairperson, JONAPWD, Edo State chapter, who gave practical examples and shared various experiences about how persons with disabilities are being marginalized and treated unfairly in the society due to corrupt practices. She highlighted the urgent need for the Edo State Disability Act 2022 to be implemented to give PWDs the right to everything good, just as everyone in the society, rights such as to education, to life, to vote and be voted for, rights to fair treatment from medical and other professional practitioners, etc. The JONAPWD representatives present at the event used the opportunity to appeal to Governor Godwin Obaseki to implement the law and put in place a disability commission that will be driven by persons with disabilities as stated by the Edo State Disability Act 2022. It would be recalled that for the past 2 years, the African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEEJ, in partnership with other cluster organizations drawn from 6 Niger Delta states and the FCT, have implemented the Enhancing Anti-Corruption and Social Inclusive Reform Initiatives in Nigeria project. ANEEJ is the anchor of the anti-corruption cluster who implemented the 2-year project under the Nigeria Strengthening Civic Advocacy and Local Engagement, Nigeria Scale project. To wrap the first phase of the project, the cluster organized a 2-day coaching session at ANEEJ Secretariat, Benin City from the 7th to the 8th of February 2024 to review the journey so far as it relates to project activities implemented vis-a-vis results achieved, updated project outcome harvester, discussed how diversity and social inclusion has been mainstreamed into the project implementation as well as conflict sensitivity, and reviewed the final reporting template. The project's advocacy advisor, Ilya Johanna of Scale Palladium, was on ground to guide cluster members through the final reporting template and gave feedback on the follow-on. The 2-day coaching session also featured a learning event on the effects of corrupt practices on persons with disabilities, most vulnerable population in the society. The project manager, Eraito Odovie Assurance, presented ANEEJ tabletop calendar to the advocacy advisor, Ilya Johanna, on behalf of ANEEJ Executive Director, Reverend David Ugolo. The session ended with exchange of appreciative messages from ANEEJ and cluster members to Scale Palladium, USA, Nigeria for their support, and from the project advisor to ANEEJ and cluster members for a successful project implementation, and looked forward to a continued collaboration. In another engagement, ANEEJ delegation, led by Deputy Executive Director and currently the Acting Executive Director, Leo Atapu, visited the Edo State Skills Development Agency on Tuesday, February 6, 2024, to meet with the MD, Anita Eribo, Head of the Skills Development Department, Elijah Ehikwenmen, and Joseph Ogunleye, Job Matching and Placement, to foster collaboration with the Edo State Government Establishment for ANEEJ Quest for Human Capacity Development and Poverty Eradication. At the meeting, both the guests and hosts explored ways on how the Skills Development Agency can support and partner with ANEEJ to implement the 4th and 5th interventions of the Brighter Futures project. Also on February 9th, the African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEEJ, organized a 1-day campaign launched on Special Drawing Rights, SDR, to raise awareness on the utilization of $3.35 billion SDR allocated to Nigeria by IMF in August 2021. The campaign is also to draw the attention of the public to ask questions about the utilization of the SDR and engage the government on issues of transparency and accountability on the use of the SDR funds allocated to Nigeria. The campaign is in furtherance of the implementation of the Increasing African Voices to Shape SDR agenda being implemented by ANEEJ in collaboration with African Forum and Network on Debt and Development, AFRODAD, Harare, Zimbabwe, with support from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The campaign launch was attended by members of the civil society organizations, media, and concerned Nigerian citizens. As part of the implementation of the Raising African Voices to Shape Drawing Rights Agenda project being implemented by ANEEJ in collaboration with African Forum and Network for Debt and Development, AFRODAD, with support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, ANEEJ organized a 2-day capacity building workshop at the 3J's Hotel, Utako, Abuja from the 7th to the 8th of February 2024. The workshop is aimed at increasing the knowledge of CSOs and media and enhancing their capacities to advocate for increased SDR allocation and reallocation mechanisms. The workshop was attended by members of civil society organizations and media organizations from across the country. As part of the implementation of the Brighter Futures project in Edo, target beneficiaries in Oka-na-Izebihen community under the 4th intervention cycle continued their training session during the month. They used the vision board developed at the resilience training session previous week to further create and include specific steps they could take to accomplish their goal as they distance themselves from crime. OsazuwaAkonedo, bringing you the news in a more digital way.